I'm Abiola Jackson. This is the Entertainment News and Celebrity Gossip TV. This is for Sunday, June the 1st. In entertainment news, according to Hot New Hip Hop, DG Akademiks and Wack 100, they question if Kendrick Lamar's GNX album, they question if it's a classic. So they both share different opinions on the success of Kendrick Lamar on the GNX album. But they discuss whether that if this album is a classic. That's the discussion. That's the big debate. Is this a classic or not? Academics doesn't think it is a classic. He thought it was a good album, but doesn't think it was a classic. And Wack thinks it is a classic. So again, they both have differences of opinion. Big Academics thinks it was not a classic. Wack thinks it was a classic. So listen to what they got to say. This is going to be an interesting conversation. Listen to this one. This should be good.
Kind of to stay on top because these my top two, bro. It's crazy that they was beefing, but what you thinking about Kendrick's success and how he's able to sustain in this tour was kind of a success. You know what I'm saying? It's really been a really successful tour, and we like a year past the beef. How do you feel about that? Because I know a lot of people didn't think he was gonna be able to sustain this level of success.
Hey, let me tell you this. As much as sometimes people want to be like, "Yo, I'm like I'm a super fan of Drake." That's lacks objectivity. Yeah, Drake's my favorite rapper, but I give Kendrick a lot of credit. Number one, Kendrick's tour is going to be the most successful hip hop, actually one of the most successful urban tours of all time. You know what I mean? It's going to be bigger than Jay's. It's on pace to be bigger than Jay-Z and Beyonce tour, on the Run tour, or the Renaissance tour, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be bigger than currently the biggest tour, which is Drake's tour, which is the It's a Blur tour that had Savage for one half and then J. Cole for another half. Yeah, Kendrick's success is something where not only I do think he's talented, man, I think he got a hell of a team, man. He got a hell of a team. I know some of his team personally. They have made every right. If we really think about it, the dude hasn't made one move that is like just a clear misstep. And I'm gonna be honest with you. You got to give him a lot of credit. GNX as well. I think it's done pretty well. Like it's not. I don't think it's necessarily a classic, but I thought it was a good album. So
You can't do that. Don't do that.
Are you pulling that? Are you going?
You know why it was a
Don't
classic,
do
guy?
that.
Well, you think it was a classic?
So what made it a classic?
I think it was a classic.
No, you know hell yeah, no, it made it a classic.
Yeah, this is the West Coast.
Nigga did 12 songs with the features being pretty much all up and comers, and it did numbers.
Yeah, but anything he dropped was gonna do numbers.
Nah,
I don't think
fuck
it was a
all that.
classic sonically, though. Sonically, it wasn't a classic.
You crazy as a motherfucker.
Hey, let me tell you what Kendrick has
Y'all
done.
niggas crazy.
Kendrick has mastered the art of timing, and he knows how to create. Again, there's only a few rappers that know how to do this. He knows how to create distance and create. I think Drake is horrible at this. Drake don't let fans miss him. Like even when everybody's biggest critique of Drake, even after the battle, was bro disappear for a little bit. He can't. Like Drake gonna be at the game. He gonna be gambling on stake. He gonna be on a stream somewhere. He gonna be chatting to a team. Like he's a little bit overexposed. Kendrick, he's mastered the art of timing and making people miss him, and everything he's doing is so calculated. Again, I think the album was good. I don't think it's a classic. But anything he would have dropped would have done well. You got to remember, I think
Bro, the nigga dropped the album. It was damn near what 6, 7 months later. May the other shit came. He didn't drop to what,
A
November?
lot of that album is still top 20 on Billboard, bro. You can't say it's not a
Yeah, what are you
classic. It's a
talking
year
about,
later.
bro?
Like we getting
No, no.
we
What we
about what
talking
eight
But
about
months
niggas
right
not gonna
now?
still be
we like
playing a
8
bunch of
months
songs off
removed.
of GNX in
Wait,
5 years, bro.
Yes,
wait.
the hell we
All
are.
Performed at Super
This
Bowl.
Now
is
we
what I
gotta
like
go to
about when y'all
five.
talk
Wait.
about Kendrick.
Now it takes 5 years for a nigga to play music for it to be a classic? Come
Wait,
on,
hold on
bro.
though.
I
I
feel
heard
like a
somebody
classic
just
album
say,
is
I'm gonna have to side with Academics on this one. I gotta agree with that Academics. I don't. It was a good album, but I don't think it was a classical top tier album. Good album, solid album, but not classical in terms of like top tier classical. If you understand what I'm saying, not top tier classical, but a good album. I gotta side with Academics on this one. Um, yeah, it's. I mean, hey, I'm not taking nothing from Kendrick Lamar. He's a very good artist, very good artist. But a classic, mm, I think it's a stretch. That's a stretch. To say it's a classic is a stretch. I'll put it that way. It's a stretch. I have to agree with Academics on this one. Let's continue.
timeless, bro. It's something niggas gonna continue
Ack,
playing.
I know what
That's
you
me
about to
personally.
do with them
Go just being an
Billboard
East
things.
Coast
Don't
Okay,
hater.
do
well,
it. Don't do it, Ack.
Watch this. Young Thug just dropped the singles. Niggas playing it?
Some niggas is.
No, no.
It ain't going
no, Young
crazy as
Thug
Fuck
Lucius
out of
not.
here.
shit.
Right now,
Fuck,
Young
come
Thug's
on,
missing the
bro.
mark. Young Thug is missing the mark right now. We can talk about it in a second. What I will say though about Kendrick, this is what I don't like about people who, you know, who do like Kendrick. They're serial goalpost movers. And for example, like somebody just said, and I forgot the gentleman's name that just said it. He said, yo, most of the songs are still charting well. Well, that's never the barometer, or people don't accept that as a barometer when Drake drops. We don't say, oh, this his album is always charting well, so it's a classic. We've always kind of looked at like, is it doing well? Absolutely, right? Like, it's one of the most successful albums in the last few years. Not nobody's knocking that, but when we talk about classic, we talking about, are these songs going to be still relevant in the culture not only years later? Is this album going to stand the test of time? So when y'all saying about right now, anything Kendrick drop, he's going to chart crazy, right? As I said, he knows how to master the art of. If he drops another album,
That's a great point by Academics. Kendrick's music that he's putting out now, the GNX album, in 5, 10 years from now, 7 years, 10 years from now, will that still be remembered as a great song or a classic song in 5, 10 years or in 20, 30 years? You got to look at it. You have to look at it from that angle. So when you talk about classic, will it still stay strong 10, 20 years from now? Or will it be a song that you heard over and over again and you get tired of that song? You want to hear something new. That's what I'm getting at basically. Is it one of those kind of songs? It's a banging song, but then you get tired of hearing it over and over again. Then 7, 10 years down the road, it gets kind of old. It's not really, doesn't have that same pull. It doesn't have that same pull, and doesn't have that same vibe that it did 10 years ago. I think that's what Academics means by that. So that's what he means by the classic. Will it hold strong? Will that song hold strong in 10, 15 years or 7, 10 years? Or will the crowd basically turn deaf ears on that song? See, yeah, I've heard that song already. Nothing. It's not holding any weight, and they want to hear something different. That's what Academics means by that. So that's what he means by that. Let's continue.
right now we just do crazy numbers again. But
then what would you measure a classic then? Because if we saying that this is the best tour, biggest urban tour of all time, performed at Super Bowl, he didn't even put the diss on there. You know what I'm saying? But still have songs. I guess you saying charting don't matter. It's always mattered. I'm a fan of both of those dudes. Those are
Okay.
literally my top two. I'm from Houston, bro. I'm not West Coast, so I have no bias. Trust me, Wack and me get into it about the whole situation all the time, bro. I got no bias in it. But the charts do gotta matter, bro, because we gotta have some type of litmus, you know. And there's
I
no
agree.
way you can't call this a classic based on every measure, bro. Like, there's no, like, you know what I mean? Like, literally performed at the Super Bowl, literally got on the biggest tour. You know what I'm saying? There's no way you cannot call this a classic.
I mean,
Rock,
And
it
I
ain't
think
been
overtime.
Drake's
out
gonna
long enough to
drop a
call it a
classic.
classic, bro. It ain't been out long enough to call
It's
it a
been a
classic.
year, bro. I mean,
Yeah,
it's almost a year. It's like
yeah,
8 months.
You can't call it a
yeah. I
classic
mean,
in 8 months,
overtime. It
bro.
might be able to
Motherfucker
do that.
still charging.
Yeah, I agree. You can't. That's a great point. You can't call it a classic, and it hasn't been up that long. It's too early to call it a classic. I agree with that. That's a great point. You can't call it a classic yet. Too early. I mean, yeah, that's a great point. Great, excellent point. You can't. I mean, to me, you're jumping to conclusions too early. You gotta see, like I said earlier, you gotta see if this song holds weight and still has the same vibes in 7, 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now. See if it still holds. See if that song still holds true, or if fans have turned a deaf ear on that song in 7, 10 years from now. If they haven't turned a deaf ear on that song in 7, 10 years from now, then you know it's a classic. And if the clubs are playing it up and down over and over again, if the radio stations are playing it over and over again in 7, 10 years, and it's still relevant at that time, then you can look at that song as a classic. But then if it's not being played as much in 7, 10 years, or 15 years, or in 10 years, then I don't know if you call it a classic. So I agree with what that guy is saying. You can't call it a classic yet. It's kind of early. It's early. It's early right now. Too early to say. But let's continue.
Might be over.
What you
Hey,
mean?
The classics got to
I ain't gonna
stand
lie.
the test of time, bro.
Right. That's right. Yeah,
Nah, hell nah. Class is gonna
The
get
only
the
the only
fuck out
people
of
that's
here.
still gonna
I
be
agree.
playing this album in 5 years is niggas on the West Coast. That's a fact.
Bro, I'm
Get
from
the fuck out
Houston.
of
Like,
here,
y'all
bro.
can't
Hey,
say
nigga, you a
that.
lie, ghost,
No,
and you
that's
know
a
it.
fact,
Play where
bro.
it's safe.
This is not
That's not
one
a
of them
fact,
albums niggas gonna be
bro. We can
playing in
argue about
5
it.
years, bro.
Yes, it is, nigga. That is a
I
cult
know y'all
classic.
said that about Kendrick 10 years ago. Can we agree?
Hello,
I'm a
and
Kendrick
here you
fan.
are
Can we
Still though,
agree?
asking
bro.
what
I'm a
niggas is
Kendrick
talking
fan,
about,
but
and
I
they
don't
ain't
think this
talking about
album
nothing.
is gonna be getting played in 5 years. I don't, bro.
Yeah,
Ghost
but I mean,
tripping, dog.
and look, listen, bro. I'm so unbiased. I'm the dude that's always said Drake lyrically won the battle. Strategically, Kendrick won, so he really won overall. You know what I'm saying? But so I'm not biased towards it. But at the end of the day, GNX on any measure has to be a classic. That's why I want to know, what do you think is a classic? Like, what's your barometer of a classic?
Usually a classic, it gets memorialized just with time. Again, it might be. It might end up being a classic. You know why? Because I think the moment. I think in the last year, even with the tour, again, we're gonna remember this time of just how dominant these songs and this album was, and it'll probably end up being. But I'm gonna tell you just off of just listening to it, because here's the thing. I think that not Good Kid, Man, I said, uh, To Pimp a Butterfly. I think that is Kendrick's best album, critically. But if we're gonna talk about his best album overall, and the one that I don't want to say the most classic one, is gonna be Damn, right? Because of the performance, is gonna be because of like that moment. The dominance of those songs is immaculate. But if we're talking about X's and O's, and we're talking about like technicalities on what a great album is or what great rapping is, I don't think that's necessarily his best album for that. So that's why. So if I can't judge the full impact yet, I got to go off just what I heard. And what I heard, those 12 songs, I don't say that's classic material, but will it perform like a classic? Yes. And will it be accepted as a classic? Most likely, because that's the album that's powered this is powered the best tour, or gonna be the best or greatest successful tour of all time. So hey, I'm not gonna fight that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of albums that didn't get certified classic immediately. There's when Chief Keef first dropped, Finally Rich, a lot of people said shit was garbage. Over time, after you realize how that shit changed music, drill culture, drill as a genre really erupted, and how it changed music, yeah, you realize that it has to be a classic. You get what I'm saying? So For me, I look at classics in two ways. Like you have sonically and technically, and then you have the impact, which I think is probably one of the most important things.
Yeah, so that's that was the opinion of DJ Academics and Wack 100. Their opinions and thoughts. If the GNX album by Kendrick Lamar was a classic, that was the debate. And like I said, for me, in my opinion, I don't think it's a classic as of yet. Not yet. Not a classic. Not yet. Like I said, it's too early in the game right now to say if it's a classic or not, because we got to see, like I said, in my opinion, we got to see in 7 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road, if this song still holds strong regarding if it's being played on the air a lot like it is now at a frequent rate or on a regular rate, and if it's played enough in the mainstream, in the clubs enough in 10 15 years at a consistent level. That's how I judge a song. In my opinion, this is how I judge a song or an album to see if it's a classic, if it's a classical album of all time. That's how I judge it. This is how I judge it. So for me to say it's a classic right now is too early, way too early for that. It's way too early. It's way too early for that right now. I can't. I ain't gonna go out there and say it's a classic. It's a good album. It's a solid album. I'm not taking nothing away from Kendrick Lamar. It's a solid album, very good album, solid, very solid. But in terms of classic, it's too early to say. I don't think it's a classic. I don't think it's a classic as of now. As of now, no. As of now, no. Too early to say. But that's my thoughts and opinions on that. Hit the like and subscribe button for more entertainment news, Celebrity Gossip TV. Again, nothing else to add to this. Until next time, peace.